folks, welcome back. Today we're doing a little in-house RV project. We tend to carry around a lot of water. My wife doesn't like to drink the tap water, and although I do put a filter on inline on the water inlet coming into the RV, what she really likes to drink is bottled water or RO water. So instead of just buying that bottled water, we tend to store lots of it in compartments and buy the bottles, and I'm getting tired of buying those. So we're going to install an RO into our RV underneath the sink and make our own reverse osmosis water. So this is the system that I'm installing, and you can see a picture of it here sitting on the tailgate of my pickup truck there. It's a GE based RO water filtration system, and it comes with a 2-gallon storage tank. And so basically anytime there's water pressure to the RV, the RO system will be making water and storing that in the 2-gallon tank. So for an RV, there are a few differences into a house. I don't have hard water lines like the house that I once had did. So they're nylon, and so I have a list of so I've been doing some diagrams here and putting some diagrams together of what I need to do and make a little parts list there, and then we're going to go to Home Depot and get a few items and get to putting this inside the underneath the sink there and getting it installed, and I can stop buying water bottles
and storing them.
Yeah, you can follow along with this. I'll you take the GoPro and film various aspects of it as the installation goes, and we'll see how it goes in. Alright, so what we're thinking is the thing that's been holding me off from doing this a lot sooner was, you know, anything electrical, no problem. But when it comes to drilling and cutting and construction type things, you know, I'm not sure about what type of bit and how to drill a counter like this. So I've been reluctant to do so. I'm looking around, and I think I've got enough confidence now that I can drill the counter and not cause it to chip. But what we're thinking is that the faucet would sit right there, and there's a base to it right here, and it will tell you when it's time to change filters with a little battery signal that it turns on, and it just, so you can move the faucet around if you need to and turn it on and get RO water. This is going to be a lot cleaner water than even, you know, there are a lot of filtration systems that you can put in line with the RV, but none of them are going to pull out the very small particulate level, even some elements that a reverse osmosis will. The reverse or RO water is going to be the cleanest water you can get. So most folks use these things in their homes. I used to have one in my home, and I'm looking forward to installing it in my RV. And anytime my wife wants to make tea or have water, she can get it from here, and we no longer have to store it in bulk inside compartments in the RV or in water bottles and things like that.
And with the Berkey,
yeah, no Berkeys. Yeah, Berkey would take up room. I mean, we thought about that.
Take up counter space.
Yeah, the Berkey would take up counter space, and I don't want to give it counter space. This is the only amount of counter space a water system is getting. So everything has to go underneath. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to get some additional 2x4s and reinforce this sidewall back here, and I'm going to mount this inside. It's just going to go inside and mount on those 2x4s like that. And then the water tank, I'm not quite sure yet. I'm just going to set that down for a minute. I actually literally have to remove this because the water tank is too wide to fit into the gap. So I'm going to have to pull this out, and then it'll probably sit in the back there. It'd be nice if it sat right here and that allowed us some storage, but I don't think there's enough room even here for the tank to sit. So it's probably going to have to go back there, and we're going to have to figure out what else we're going to do with the trash can that we normally keep here. So yeah, as you can see, it's pretty big, and it literally doesn't fit directly there. So I have already looked up in here, and I can see the screws that hold this top and bottom, and I can just pull the screws out, and this should come out, and that'll allow me to get the water tank inside. So all right, starting to put our filter in. I added these support bars. The support was like 1x2s, I think. Got these from Home Depot, and I cut them to fit, to hook up. This is the original cabinetry down here, and then up here. So I had to run some screws at an angle, and I kind of pre-drilled it so they go in an angle. And then I ran some underneath there, straight up through, if you can see that. to hang the filter. I've already cut the supply line, added a T. This is a shark bite T, and I also added, I had to buy a piece of the 1/2" nylon line that they use and add in the valve, which then goes to a 1/4" end, and then my yellow feed line, which is right here, will then hook into that 1/4" or that 1/4" fitting right there for the valve. And then some of these go up to the faucet, which I have not installed yet. I'm reluctant to do that yet because it requires drilling this counter, and I've not been real excited about drilling that counter. I mean, this, when it comes to electrical things, I can hook anything up. But when it comes to drilling counters, that kind of stuff, I've never done it before and I'm afraid of messing it up. So I still need to install the tank. The tank will go right here. It's a 2-gallon tank. And then I have to cut the drain, because remember, when an RO runs, there's a brine output, and that goes into your drain. So if you've ever been over somebody's house when they have an RO, you always hear this sort of small drip into a drain. That's the old RO working. And the idea here is to, I mean, I had one of these when I was in my house, and you know, it makes very clean water, probably about as clean a water as you can get. When it pushes that water through that membrane, this final membrane right here, it goes through these filters first, and then I think the last stage is this membrane. And when it comes out of there, it's devoid of anything. In fact, some folks actually will put some minerals back in the water, because when it comes out, once it comes out of there, it literally is stripped of everything, every element, bacteria, just about everything. Got some more stuff to cut these to fit once we figure out where things are going to route and get the faucet in place and start routing water lines and drain lines to it. And you should be able to make water even on the electric DC water pump when you're boondocking. I do have this valve, so I could turn it off if I want, but I should be able to make water even without the city water hooked up. I could just turn the pump on, and you might hear it, you know, every so often as it's pushing water through the filter and membrane, and it will store it, as it'll store it here, and I'll show you when the water tank's installed. But you should be able to make water anytime, and not just on city water. Alright, I forgot to pull out the GoPro and film this, but I just drilled the countertop, so I looked underneath to see how much gap I had underneath there. And I just ran the drill straight on through. There was a piece of wood down there that had to drill through that as well. So you can see the plug there from the countertop. It took me a while to figure out what kind of bit to use. I didn't know whether this was granite or mica or corian or some sort of composite, but it turns out it's just like a composite material. When I started to drill, it just turned into powder. So, and it made a nice clean hole, you can see. You can see there. So, next step is to put in the faucet. Here, I'll show you a few things I've already put in now, over here. Alright, you can see the tank is now installed. The drain is now in. I haven't yet hooked it up yet. And now we're putting in the faucet. We've got some cleanup to do. And you notice I took this centerpiece out so that I could get the tank installed. And that actually made access a lot easier too. So the centerpiece is just sitting right there until we get ready to put it all back together. And yeah, I keep forgetting to break out my GoPro and show the various steps here. I mean, I'm learning this myself. I've never drilled a counter before in my life, and so I kept going back and forth. Home Depot, and I actually took the lid to the sink and showed it to one of the guys at Home Depot, and, you know, can you identify this? Is it, you know, is it, I don't know if it's granite or corian or formica. They didn't really know either, so we figured it was probably not granite, and so I just bought a bit based on that, and he said if it is granite, it'll just wear the bit out pretty quickly. And we just went to drilling, so. Okay, here we are with it all installed now. I have a valve. It took me a couple times to get this fitting right, and the inner pieces kept it from leaking, but it's not leaking anymore. Put some Teflon tape on that fitting there, because it would, every now and then it would get a drip from it. So here's your tank, your storage tank. These are your carbon filters that do a pre-filter, and then once it's gone through these two carbon filters, it then comes up here and goes and is pushed through this membrane. And this is, I believe, this is where the reverse osmosis takes place. And these filters are really there to protect this membrane. We don't want chlorine. If chlorine gets into the membrane, it'll destroy the membrane. So these really are meant to filter out big elements in that chlorine, and so the membrane can do the rest of the work. So once it gets filtered, it stores it in here. It also runs, this blue line runs up to the faucet, which I could, put it in a better area out of the way. Some of these I cut them down, but I could have cut them down a little more. Try to get them out of the way there. And you can also see now the faucet. Alrighty. So, pardon the mess. We're still working on a few things here. So this is what the faucet looks like, and that is RO water. I don't have a lot of, the tank's not full yet, so, and I'm actually making RO water off of the pump right now. I haven't turned the city water on yet, so I'm about ready to do that. The kit came with everything you need to install it, except there are a few things that it didn't come with. It didn't come with some Teflon tape, and that I put on the threads on this and on the threads on that. This right here is that shark bite, which it did not come with. I wanted to put a T in there, and it didn't come with this valve. That's why I can shut water off to the RO anytime I want, and yet have water still going to the regular faucets in the RV. Alright, time to put this back in now that I've got that tank in there. And get those holes lined back up, so I'm not going to drill new holes. I just want to run the screws right back in the same hole. Be able to just shut the doors. Okay, so the RO is installed. We've been running it for a few hours now. The tank is full, so it's full of water. I did have a little bit of a leak right there. I had to tighten that fitting just a little bit more. Seems to be okay now. So let's talk a little bit about the RO system itself. The nice thing about the RO system is it gives you bottled water taste and bottled water parts per million in terms of cleanliness that you would find at the grocery store. And that's the main reason I bought this, is because I wanted to stop buying the bottled water and just make it myself. And that's what this will do. This is a small enough system that it doesn't filter the water throughout the entire RV. It just gives us a drinking point, and it's just for drinking water only. The thing about the one drawback with an RO is there is a wastewater output, and if you look right here, you can see the drain hose here. This is the wastewater that will not fit through the membrane. It basically throws it into your drain, which then ends up in your black tank, or not your black tank, but your gray tank. So this water here will end up in your gray tank. So I'm not certain what the efficiency is, but I believe it's 1 gallon in here for every 3 gallons that end up in the drain. So there is a little bit of a wastewater that you do have to think about if you're going to go boondocking. Maybe you don't run the system when you're boondocking. If you don't want to run the system when you're boondocking, it's real easy. You can just turn this valve right here, and I've turned off the RO system, water to it, and basically the reverse osmosis stops functioning. I'm not going to be filling my tank anymore either, so whatever capacity is in there, I could probably use some of that, and that will be it. But anytime I'm in an RV park hooked up to city water, or even in this fact, this system, this is a GE Smartwater. This will run off of 40 psi of water pressure. My water pump generates 40 psi, a little bit more. Actually, it generates about 50. And the RV park I'm currently at is giving us about 50 psi of water pressure. So I can make water off of either the pump or off the city water, and it'd be a good bottled water type drinking water that you would buy from the store. And I've been meaning to do this for a while, and stop buying all the water. We literally, you think about, well, you're adding the added weight of the reverse osmosis system and in this 2-gallon tank, but if you saw the multiple gallons of water that we buy, plus these big packs of bottled water. I mean, I'm carrying a lot of that water already with me. It would be nice if I only have 2 gallons now, and anytime we use some of it, it just makes some more and keeps that thing full. So once this is full of water, the RO will stop making water. It will also stop making waste. So, with the faucet now installed, and it does have a little sensor here that will tell you when it's time to replace the carbon filters, and that's real important to do, because once the carbon filters fill up with material, get clogged up, they can start to pass through contaminants into the membrane, particularly chlorine, and chlorine will destroy the membrane. So it's real important to replace those carbon filters whenever they're due. So there's a little reminder light in here. It's battery powered, and it will come on and let you know when it's time to replace those carbon filters. And it's basically on a timer. And so now we can make the same kind of water that you would find from your water bottles. I believe some Costco water is reverse osmosis, and it's pretty good. It's pretty clean water. So you could even run this RO while you're boondocking. However, there is a drawback to that. Is the way a RO works is there's a wastewater output, and I believe this one's a 1 for 3. I'm not certain on that. I need to look. So 1 gallon of good water, drinking water, for 3 gallons of wastewater. So you have to think about that in terms of your gray water tank. So my thinking is that we would make water while we're plugged into our RV park and city water, and then I would turn the system off. And so while I'm plugged into the RV park, I would create a few gallons of drinking water, and then we go boondocking. I would just shut the RO off, and we would have water, drinking water, when we're out boondocking, and rather than letting the pump run and filling up our gray tank. So hope you like our install and our new RV RO water system, and we'll see you next time.